of a side because Kent State, they kept up with Buffalo at home. They lost by 9 points. That kind of feeds into where the spread should be. I think the game went to 167 earlier in the year, and that was at Kent State. Kent State's got the capability, when you look at what they've done, to play fast basketball. Somehow Buffalo plays even faster in conference at 77 adjusted possessions per game, compared to 74.9 when you look at the whole season. So Buffalo's really turning up the speed here. But Kent State plays a little bit faster in the MAC conference at 69 possessions per game themselves, and the MAC is slow, so that it might even be a little bit greater than that. I like how Kent State averages 75.5 points per game. Buffalo averages 90 at home. So I'm probably going to take a small play on the over. I know it's going to be a high one at 160. Possibly look to see if that line goes down a little bit, see if some of those immediate bets hit that under. But I feel pretty safe at the 160 mark, all the way up to 164, 165. That's my personal preference in this. Don't want to lay the chalk. I think that I think the over is the way to look in this game.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if I'm leaning anyway, it's towards the over here.
For sure, man. All right, good. We got an agreement on the first one. Don't ever want to go against sharp better like you right away. So that's good. Penn State versus Illinois is the one I have next. Illinois is laying about 2 points. I have the over-under 141. Have you looked at this game?
Yeah, I did, and my model kind of spit out the 3-point favorite here. What stuck out to me is that Illinois allows the most free throws of any defense in the Big Ten, but then you have Penn State, who is the worst free throw shooting team in the Big Ten. So can they take advantage? Who knows? At this point, every team has shot lights out from the free throw line against Illinois, so there might be a little bit of value there in terms of Illinois really as bad as they look, because their opponents have shot better than they should from the free throw line against them. So I don't think that translates very well. It's not like they're playing bad defense from the free throw line or anything. I think it's just a victim of some poor luck. And then on the flip side, you have Penn State, who's been buried from the 3-point line. Their opponents are making 41% of the shots from behind the arc against them. There's a little bit of defense there, but also these teams are just shooting lights out against them. So I think both these defenses look a little worse than they are. I don't think Illinois is going to go out there and shoot 45% from the 3-point line against them. Mm-hmm. I don't do a lot of totals, but some of these signs to me are pointing towards more of an under. I have to see what the number is and all that, but the value just from how teams have kind of been fortunate from the shot making process against both of these defenses would lead me to believe that the under would have some value.
Yeah, possibly. Illinois is looked at as a fast-playing team, but the unders have been hitting the Big Ten. I did the analysis I mentioned earlier. Big Ten unders are about at 57% in conference right now. It's crazy. It's
nuts.
It is nuts, absolutely. And so really scary to bet an over in this. And I like your angle because Penn State, they just had that big game putting up 95 points, shooting 56% against an injured Nebraska team a few days back. Penn State's a little rejuvenated. They won 3 of their last 5 games after that awful stretch of losing a bunch in a row. But Illinois, they're very much improved with Coach Brad Underwood there, and they're doing a fantastic job. And these kids are young, but they're just getting better. The 2 keys to this game, I think, is kind of the spot and the home road splits. When the team that's isn't doing as good, shooting, and then all of a sudden they had that great game like Penn State, I like to fade them the next time. That's just kind of one of my little rules. Mm-hmm. And then, Penn State could be looking ahead to Maryland as well. So I kind of like the spot that fades Penn State here. The Illini, coming off a good loss at a very desperate Wisconsin team. That Wisconsin just lost to Michigan and to Michigan State. They kind of had to beat Illinois, and Illinois was winning a lot of that game. Illinois played hard. They've been on fire at home, though. You look this; they score 79.9 points per game at home, 46% from the field, when their overall average is only 73.8 and 43% from the field. That shows Illinois is a lot more dominant at home. and their defense is better at home, only allowing 72.3 points. Penn State, they're bipolar. They only score 65.6 points on the road and shoot 40% on the road. So Penn State is a bad road team here. They're one of the bad ones, and I like to pick on the bad ones, especially in the Big Ten, because that's where I'm a Big Ten specialist, and that's where I definitely win the majority of my bets. But if you look in general on KenPom, Penn State shows the better team. But if you click on conference play, if you just look at what they did in the conference, Illinois shows better. So you're going to get an Illinois team only laying 2 points when they're actually better playing in conference and more improved. I like Illinois by 5. I'm going to lay the points with Illinois here, my man. I think that's one of the bigger bets here.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree. That's definitely the way I'd be leaning to.
Awesome. Well, let's move into a little ACC action. We have Virginia going to Louisville. Louisville is going to be getting about 5 points at home. A little home dog action. Over under I have at 123. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I have Virginia lined at about the same, 5-point favorite. This is two of the best defenses in the ACC, so unlike those Buffalo games, I wouldn't expect a lot of scoring here. I'd be surprised if this total got above 120. But looking at this last year, Virginia did manage to score 74-plus points twice against Louisville, and they only scored over 70 against one other team in the ACC, so they might have something figured out against that defense. Virginia's the best three-point shooting team in the ACC percentage-wise, but they don't take a lot of them. They do most of their scoring down low, and that leads to a lot of consistency. That's, like we talked about the futures bets with Virginia, which is contrary to them actually losing last year and getting upset, as those teams that don't rely on the outside shot. They can't go on long scoring droughts. Those are the teams I like to kind of consistently beat teams in the tournament, and Virginia fits that bill due to that. But, can Louisville score enough to cover here? I don't know. Virginia's a rare team that limits how well opposing teams shoot from the three-point line. They don't give a lot of good looks to the opposing teams. And Louisville's made 36% of their attempts this year. If they can hit a few open shots, and I think they can keep this one close, but I honestly don't see it happening. I think Virginia takes care of business here.
Virginia with the 5 points there, and that's kind of one of those numbers you think
right.
Sometimes think about waiting on. Yeah, I don't know if this is a strong play for me. I know ever since the collapse against Duke, Louisville certainly not been the same team. They've only been scoring 50. They had 56 points at home to Clemson, and they lost to Syracuse, putting up only 49 points there. It's just they're disheartened or something. I don't know what's going on here. They're bipolar. They're weird. They beat teams like North Carolina. They should have beat Duke. I think they beat Michigan State this year as well. They've had some big wins, and then they have some terrible losses. Pittsburgh, they have some games that they should not have lost. Virginia, man, they lose to Duke a couple times. Duke's got their number. Then they go to North Carolina, take care of business. That's some serious defense. If you're stopping the Tar Heels this year. Both of these teams rank number 1 and number 2 in conference play and defensive efficiency in the ACC. So there's your under, right? Like you said, you'd be surprised that it gets to 120 points. And, that's definitely the way I would lean. Louisville's weird. Like I said, they did beat UNC and lose to Pittsburgh. If you look at the home road splits, Louisville seems to score about the same at home and on the road. They play a little bit better defense at home, while Virginia is definitely a better home team than they are away team. And it's about a 10-point margin if you kind of look at points for, points against, defensive opponent points. Virginia definitely shows better at home. Now, Virginia hasn't had that tough of a road schedule, minus that Duke game, I think. And, I like the fact that Louisville can hit free throws. They rank number 1 in the SEC. Now, will they be able to draw those free throws against Virginia? I don't know. But when it comes to the low total, I'm almost leaning towards the points here. But I'll tell you right now, if I decide to take Louisville plus 5 or plus 5.5 or wherever it comes out to, it's certainly not going to be a big play on my side.
Yeah. No, to your point, something that does kind of speak to Virginia being overvalued a little bit is their opponents have shot the worst free throw percentage of any other team in the ACC during conference play. So that kind of thing I look at just as far as, like, you can't defend the free throw line, right? So, I mean, are they wearing these guys down and they get there with wobbly legs and don't make a normal rate against them, or what it is? I just don't think it translates. I don't think it's something that they can keep up. So that would be my one knock against Virginia as far as why would they be overvalued. But, if they played their schedule against everybody else except Duke, they wouldn't have a loss right now. So it's tough to discount how good they've been as long as they're not going against freakish athletes. So
very true. Very true. But I'll tell you this game probably means more to Louisville than it does to and I wonder if that Syracuse game, they were kind of looking ahead a little bit. So I guess those are my points. But the 5, be tough to play it at 5. I'd be hoping for a 5.5, 6 if which you might get. If you wait this sucker out, you actually might get that one. Let's move into Big 12 country. I know you like your Iowa State, and that I always like team sports bettors that have their best favorite team is in that division because they seem to know a little bit more about it here. West Virginia versus Baylor. Baylor's laying 12 points. The over/under is 142. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I saw this game and I thought two things. West Virginia's dead to me after what they did to me the other night. I had them against Kansas State. And, about halfway through the second half, I'm feeling pretty good. The score, I think, was tied 42-42. And next thing I know, I'm helping put the baby to bed. I come back, and they're down 14 points, haven't scored. So I hate them. They're dead to me. The other team here in my doghouse is Baylor for what they did to my Cyclones the other night up in Ames. Pretty much shut the door on them winning the Big 12 conference. So we got two teams right now that I'm not a big fan of. And I had to go deep into this one for you, so just bear with me. But no, this definitely should be a double-digit win for Baylor. Ever since Bolden went out for West Virginia, this team's been awful. They weren't necessarily good before, but they were kind of competitive in some of their early losses. Texas Tech, Kansas State, they beat Kansas. But then outside of that, since their win over Oklahoma on February 2nd, they've gotten beat by 14-plus points every game without him. So I think that they're definitely reeling right now. And Mason's not going to be bothered by any pressure that they put on him. He's a veteran guard. He's played really well against Iowa State. He missed a couple games with that knee injury, but after the way he played the other night, I'd say he's back to full strength. And whenever he has been going, this team has been really, really good. So I like Baylor to win this one. It's a lot of points, and I typically stay away from those double-digit kind of favorites, but this is another one where there's no upset alert in my mind. I can't see West Virginia being a live dog at all. But maybe Baylor has a letdown after that big win. That'd be kind of the knock against it, but I like them to win pretty handily here.
No, man, that's I agree with you, and you look at these two teams, they both recently had those player issues. Baylor lost 3 out of 4 games a few weeks back until they got Mekhi Mason back, and shocking your Iowa State Cyclones last weekend. That was or on Tuesday. On Tuesday was that. Yeah, it was recent. And that's brutal. It was kind of like Iowa State's letdown spot. West Virginia, ever since suspending their starters for the season, Essa Ahmad and Wesley Harris, hasn't scored over 53 points. They haven't scored over 53 points, literally.
Yeah, it's been ugly.
They've lost 4 games in a row, all by blowouts, And when healthy, I think Baylor is a top 3 Big 12 team. I really do. And, I guess you can argue Kansas State, and Iowa State, but they're right there. I don't think Kansas is below them right now until they prove something. They rank number 1 in offense, right? And it's pretty crazy here. Iowa State's right there as well. I think they might get that King McClure back this game too, because he was questionable for the last game, and a few extra days, that just gives a little bit more power for Baylor. And McClure's their best 3-point shooter. So there you go. Everything is just pointing against West Virginia here. I think West Virginia ranks last in every single category in the Big 12. Yeah. If you look on KenPom, Bart Torvik, all the sites, man, I'm going to keep fading West Virginia. I'm going to lay the 12, and I actually lean under here. I think West Virginia struggles to get up to 50 points, 55 points here. I think they lose like 70 to